Y'all, hey, welcome back to my channel. Thanks so much for stopping by. We're talking Kindles today, y'all, and you know how I love me some Kindles, so let's go on and get into this. Before we do, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you can keep up with the shenanigans. All right, y'all, like I said, everybody knows that I love Kindles. I have Kindles, I use them all the time, I read on them, I read on Kindle apps, on other devices, I read every day. I read on the Kindle app on my other e-writing tablets, like e-ink tablet devices. I have multiple Kindles. I think I have all the Kindles actually. But one thing that you might not know about me is that one of the reasons that I love Kindles so much is because I feel like they're the great equalizer, that we can use Kindles to help readers who either struggle or are reluctant about reading to read more, read better, read more comfortably, read more confidently. They do a lot of things for readers who might not otherwise be reading. And that's what I want to talk about today, is how we can use Kindles or other electronic devices to help readers who might otherwise struggle to become better readers. So, y'all, like I said, I'm a Kindle girl. I've got all the Kindles. I love Kindles. I realize that there are other e-ink tablets out there and other reading devices out there. And I'm not going to go into the pros and cons of Kindles versus those or those versus Kindles. I'm just specifically going to talk about Kindles today because that's what I use and that's what I know more about. But I think a lot of what I say can be generalized across other tablets like Nooks or Kobos or whatever reading device you have access to. So I'm going to talk specifically about Kindles, but just sort of think about what I say in terms of the device that you have or that you have access to. So I have a list, and y'all, I'm going to try to stick to my list because I've been working on this I've been meaning to shoot this video for days and days, but I keep rewriting my list and revamping my list and moving things around, and I've gotten to that sort of analysis to paralysis stage with this whole thing. So I'm just going to jump in and start doing it, and hopefully it'll be somewhat organized. So the first thing that I want to talk about is just sort of and y'all, when I say Kindle, just think Kindle or other e-ink readers in general, because I'm not going to keep saying that every time because it'll just get all awkward. But one of the main benefits of a Kindle for especially young readers is that it's a purpose-built device, right? The Kindle is specifically made for reading. So it's not an iPad, which y'all, I have iPads too. I just whacked myself with an iPad. I love iPads, and we'll talk about one thing that an iPad can do for a reader that your basic Kindle will not do. At least I think it will. We'll get into that. But the iPad, even though you can read on it, is not purpose-built for reading. So when you sit a reader down with a Kindle, they know that it's time to read. So they're not, checking their messaging from their friends. They're not checking games. They're not checking all the other things that distract us. And y'all, that's true for all of us, right? When we sit down with a phone or a tablet of any sort that's connected to all of those things, it's almost natural that we go and quickly check all of that stuff before we open a book. Well, when you sit down with just a Kindle, all you can do is read. So it's purpose-built, and it sort of hones the reader in on reading. So that's definitely, I think, an advantage to a Kindle over some other non-purpose-built device. Many of us have organizational issues, right? Like you set something down and walk away from it and you're not sure where you left it, or you're reading, and y'all, I'm a teacher, and specifically I'm a reading specialist, and I work with struggling readers. So a lot of what I say, I'm going to say in terms of kiddos, but often we don't grow out of these issues. So these issues that kids have will follow a reader, like these issues that a reader has as a kid will follow them or can follow them into adult life. So just think in terms of like when I talk about a kiddo, this may be, your teenage reader, or this may be you as an adult that you're sitting there reading and something happens over there and you go, oh, and you close your book and you go to do whatever that is. And now you've lost your place in your book. Now, for an average reader, finding that place in the book is not rocket science. You just like flip and then you find, figure out like what was happening in the book. You find that place and then Bob's your uncle, that's where you were. For struggling readers, it's often not that easy and it can be overwhelming. And then that's just the end of the reading for that session or possibly even for the book. With a Kindle, when you're reading, you put it down, you pick it back up, it's right where you left off. Or the Kindle shuts down, you open it back up, it's right where you left it. So it keeps your place, which may sound like a simple thing unless you've dealt with a struggling reader. If you dealt with a struggling reader, you understand what a big deal that is. So it helps with organization. And I've talked in other videos about how you can make collections of books on your Kindle. And y'all, I keep saying I'm going to do this and I promise that I will, but we need to have a conversation just about like organizing and personalizing our Kindles, and that'll be part of that. But know that you can also make collections on your Kindle. So let's say Johnny and Sarah both use the Kindle. Well, you can have a collection of Johnny's books and a collection of Sarah's books inside the Kindle, so they can go in there, their books are there, they open the book, it's at the page where they left off, and then they just start reading. So it helps with organization. Also, back to the whole, you set something down, you walk away. Let's say Johnny is reading a book, he's loving it, he sets the Kindle down, he goes and does whatever he has to do, comes back and he's like, I know I left it right here, it's not here. Well, that's not where he left it. He had walked upstairs and set it, under his dirty clothes because you told him to go get his clothes because you're doing laundry. He goes upstairs to get his clothes. He sees a squirrel, forgets to get his clothes, forgets that he had his Kindle, comes back downstairs to where he had been reading. He's like, well, I was reading right here. I know this is where I left my Kindle. Now it's not here. And he is in an absolute tizzy because in the book that he was reading, he left Fred up the tree and the bus is coming and Fred's going to miss the bus and be late for school and it's going to be your kid's fault because now he's lost his book and he can't keep reading. Well, all you have to do is sit him down, open a Kindle on your phone, let him read from there while you find the Kindle that he's left under his dirty clothes pile. So while it helps with organization, it can also be a relief that there's not just that one place that little Johnny has to keep up with to be able to read, like a physical book. He can read on his Kindle, he can read on your Kindle, he can read on the iPad, he can read on the iPhone, whatever it is. Just if it's not a Kindle, if it's like a device, just pull up the Kindle app on that, pull up the book, it goes right back to the page that he was on. Bob's your uncle, he's reading again, and crisis averted. One thing that I absolutely love about Kindle, like honest to goodness Kindle tablets, is that they're e-ink. Now there are other Kindles, and we'll talk about these, like the Kindle Fire, and there are advantages to having a Kindle Fire over the like regular old Kindle e-ink tablet, but y'all, there is nothing like reading on an e-ink tablet. It's so close to reading on paper. As a matter of fact, let's get into this and look at this Kindle. All right, so let's get into this and talk about some of the benefits of reading on a Kindle e-ink tablet. For one, there's reduced eye strain from reading on e-ink versus other types of tablets. So you don't have the backlight that you get from, say, an iPad or an iPhone, which reduces eye strain for like the average reader, like a person with healthy eyes. So if a reader has visual issues, like visual processing issues, or just vision issues, a Kindle could reduce the strain associated with that. And speaking of eye strain, let's get into some of the customization that you can do in a Kindle. So the look of a page on a book is really important, right, to anybody, but especially to a struggling reader. So on a Kindle, y'all, we can change all of this stuff. So there's a menu. So I'm just in a book right now. This is just a page in a book. If I go to the top of the page, this little double A menu, that's where I can customize my font, my layout, all the things. So I can pick the font that works best for my reader. So Bookerly, I don't know why it was on 2, but I'm a Bookerly 3 girl, by the way. But so Bookerly is the font that I enjoy reading in, but I have readers who have visual processing issues who thrive in Open Dyslexic, which, y'all, this is a really interesting font. I'm not gonna lie, it drives me crazy. I cannot, like my brain just cannot do it. But if you look at, I don't know how well you can see it on here, but on Open Dyslexic, none of the letters are the same. Like a B and a D aren't the same, because to the brain of a person with certain visual processing disorders, they don't see a B and a D positioned differently on a paper. All they see is a circle with a stick. So if you think about it, a B, a D, and a P are all kind of the same thing. They're just rotated, right? And to a neurotypical or an average reader, our brains process them that way, and it makes sense. Often to a non-neurotypical reader, they see those letters and all they see is circle and stick, and it's all the same. Well, in Open Dyslexic, B, D, and P, the thicknesses of the letters are different. So a B is weighted differently than a P, is weighted differently than a D. So the brain processes those differently, which again drives me crazy. I've had students who read exclusively in Open Dyslexic, and when we read together, they want me to read in it too so that our pages match. And I do, but y'all, it is so challenging, which was like intellectually, I knew that, it was challenging for those learners to try to read. But when I tried to read in Open Dyslexic and it was so hard for me, like it was a vivid, like I had this vivid realization of just a tiny bit of what it was like to them to try to read. So anyway, I'm like way down a rabbit hole. But so you can change the font. So that's like the actual font. There are different font families. And we're not going to get into all of this today, but you can download custom fonts. If there's a font that your reader really likes and it's not available natively on the Kindle, you might be able to download it as a custom font. But I got to go back to Bookerly, y'all. I can't do this. Sorry. But so I think you saw me change the size. So you can change font size in here. That's the font family. You can change layout. So if your reader does better with fewer words on the page, like more white on the, like more margin, you can do this. You can do, oh, that's not what I wanted. Sorry. You can do spacing, so you can space your lines out. You can justify it. You can do it justified or non-justified so that the letters go all the way to the edges of the lines or not. Just whatever it is that helps your reader's brain or that helps your brain as a reader process the information better. You can change all of that to just make it easier for you, to make it work better for your brain. And then you can save, once you get your settings set, you can save it as a theme. And then if you have different readers use a Kindle, like using the same Kindle, you can save Johnny's theme and Sarah's theme and Mom's theme and Dad's theme and just go in and change them. So there's that. And y'all, okay. I'm just going to leave that. But here's a quick little shortcut. You can pinch to change the font size from inside the text. So you don't have to go back to that menu every time just to change your font size. So that's pretty handy. So you can do font size, you can do spacing, you can do margins to give your reader more control over what's happening on their screen, like what they're seeing at any given time. And y'all, that's huge. Like that can be really big for a reader who struggles, because looking at a page with lots of words can be really intimidating. So if you can get that under control for a reader, it might encourage them to read at all or read more. And y'all, that can be so liberating for a reader. Speaking of liberating, when you're reading on a Kindle, people around you don't see what you're reading. Y'all, if I had had that when I was in, I don't teach in public schools anymore, but if I had had that ability when I was teaching in public schools, I could have ruled the world. If I could have had my readers who were reading below grade level be able to read books at their reading level while sitting amongst their peers and not have their peers be able to see what they were reading, it would have been such a game changer. As much as we want to think it doesn't matter, kids want to look like their peers. So on the Kindle, now on mine right now, of course you can see the book that I'm reading, but y'all, that's just a simple setting. All you have to do is go back to that same top menu, go into settings, and then go to screen and brightness. And then under that, show cover on lock screen. If you turn that off, and you're only going to have that option if you've bought the Kindle with the, like that doesn't have the ads, or like if you've had ads turned off. So if you turn off show cover on lock screen, now when I go back to my lock screen, it's going to give me an ad for something. Oh, look, I just have a screensaver. Oh, I guess because I paid for that, I don't get the ads. I just get the screensaver. And you can customize your screensaver too. We'll do that in the how to customize your Kindle video. You can put some really cute screensavers on there. But, so yeah, that's all you have to do. And then nobody sees what you're reading. And y'all, that can be huge. Not just for kiddos not reading on grade level. Anything that a kid's reading that they don't necessarily want their peers to know that they're reading. Like, you know, if it's, and like, I'm not trying to get into any kind of thing political, but like any like gender issues, religious issues, cultural issues, anything that they want to read about. What if a reader, like what if a student, what if somebody has like an invisible disability, right? Like something that their peers don't see, and they want to read a book about that. But then they're like, well, if I read a book about, you know, somebody with whatever it is, diabetes or whatever, and their friends don't know that they're a person living with diabetes, and they read a book about it, and their friends are like, hey, what's that all about? If they're reading it on a Kindle, then nobody knows. So I think that, y'all, privacy, huge. And I think that's a really big advantage to reading on a Kindle. All right, so let's get into some other things that the Kindle can do. One thing is vocabulary. It can help, it can do a few things. First thing is if you long press on a word, and I'm just gonna, I don't even know what text we've been looking at this whole time, sorry, but I'm just gonna long click on a word, and it pulls up a dictionary definition, a Wikipedia reference, and if there's a translation, it'll give you that. So that's just from long pressing on it. And y'all, this will do a couple of things for a reader. One, if we can get them to do that and read the definition, that's going to expand their vocabulary. But it will also help them with their reading comprehension, because instead of just like when they get to the word analysis, if they don't know it and they just go and keep reading, if they'll long press on that word and have the definition come up, then that's going to help their reading comprehension, because then they're not just skipping words in the text. So it's building their vocabulary and helping their reading comprehension. Now, here's a cool thing that Kindles have. From anywhere inside of any book, you can click the menu at the top, click these little 3 buttons over here, and you get Vocabulary Builder as one of your options. If you click on that, these are all of the words that you've long pressed on. And then from there, if you click on the word, it gives you the definition and the context in which it was used when you looked it up. So this could be really cool if you can get your kiddo to long press on words that they don't know, you can then go back with them through these words and look at the words, talk to them about it, see where they are in the text that they read, and work with them on their comprehension. So y'all, that's a really powerful tool. And then once they know it, you can hit mastered, or you can just delete it. Like if they click a word and they're like, wait, I knew that word, just delete it. Get it out of there. So that's one thing you can do. Another really powerful tool inside the Kindle is Wordwise. So that's back in this AA menu. If you go into More and scroll down through all of these options, Wordwise is going to be one of your options. And I have it off, but if you turn it on, then you see my line. Okay, hang on. I'm going to change this because my lines were already like way spread apart. So I'm going to change my spacing back to like a normal line spacing. And the reason I did that is because Wordwise does like space out your lines a lot, because here's what it does. Wordwise picks words that it thinks might be challenging to a reader, and it gives you hints to the meaning of that word. So if you have a reader who, one, you think might not do the long press on a word, but might read hints that are already in there and help themselves understand the text better, then maybe try to get them to use Wordwise. Like here, you see this clue right here for the word wither? It says, to what place? So where your reader might not know the word wither or might think that wither means to like wither up, right? Like to shrink up, which is one use of the word wither. But in this context, wither means like the inquisitive sense of the term wither, like where. And Wordwise gives you that hint. So that'll help your reader with their comprehension without them having to go through the whole like long press and looking up words, which they might be a little more reluctant to do. So Wordwise is a super powerful tool if you can get your reader to use it. Let me turn off Wordwise. And while we're at it, I'm going to fix my margins because that's bugging me too. So y'all, I talk about struggling readers, like wanting to control the look of their book. Y'all, I can't. Like, I have to have the right font and the right settings and all the things, or it just bugs me. All right, I feel much better now. So another fabulous, a couple of more tools that I want to talk about in here before we move on. One is X-Ray. X-Ray is a great place for readers, anybody, any of us, to go and get great tools to understand the book you're reading. So people, it lists important characters in the book, terms that you might not know will be listed, notable passages. So things that are important within the book will be listed under that X-ray section if it's available for the book. So not all books have X-ray, but X-ray. And then the other thing that I think is super powerful is, again, if you long press, one of your options is note. And so you can type note. So as your reader is reading, they can make notes to themselves as things come up, like if they have a question or something that they want to remember, they can just type in a note. And can you see right here, you get this little footnote, and then up in the top menu, see that little, like, it looks, I think it's supposed to be like a little piece of notebook paper or something. If you touch that, all of your highlights and your notes show up there. So see, it says note and typed note. That's what I typed there. So all of your notes will show up there. So that's a great way to sort of keep a running list of your thoughts as you're reading, and you can export those too. So, and I'm not going to do it right now, but if you click export there, you can email it to yourself. So the long press for vocabulary, Wordwise, vocabulary builder, highlight, notes, and X-ray are all fabulous tools to use either for yourself or for a struggling reader to read books that maybe you wouldn't otherwise be willing to tackle. Those are all tools within the Kindle that can be used to help empower readers. All right, so that's all well and good. Well, what about your readers with maybe visual processing challenges who need auditory input with their books to help them understand? We got that too. Now, I think one answer that we've often gone to is just like talk to text options. And there's actually one of those in the Kindle. I don't love this one and I don't want to go too far into it, and frankly, I don't even have a Bluetooth speaker hooked up to my Kindle right now, so I can't really show it to you. But if you have a Kindle and you have a book on your Kindle and you want the Kindle to just straight up read you the book, if you go into that top menu again and go into those three dots at the end, I believe it's go into settings and then it's under accessibility and voice view screen reader. So of course it's off on mine, but if you turn it on, it'll read your screen. So if you're going to use that, have it open to the page that you want it to read, have it hooked up to whatever Bluetooth device you want it to read onto, and turn it on, and then Bob's your uncle, it'll read to you. Now, it is not the same as having like listening to the Audible narration of a book, but if you already own the book and you just want it to read to you for a bit, you can do that. Another thing you can do, and I keep saying we're not going to get into all these things, and then we get into all these things, you can have Alexa read you a book, which things are going to start going off because I just said that name. But if you go into more under the Alexa app on your phone, one of your options is going to be to have her read you a book. And I think you can even do it as like verbal commands for her. I'm not exactly sure. I don't use that because I'm a little bit of a snob when it comes to having things read to me. And y'all, here's the option that I prefer. But so Alexa will do it and you can do it inside your Kindle. And both of those are, I air quote, free options because at that point you've already bought the Kindle book, right? So then it's not really free, but you're at least not buying the Audible narration as well. But I'm a bit of a snob when it comes to narration. I like to listen. If I'm going to listen to a book being read, I like to listen to it being performed. So I prefer the Audible version or like the Audible option. But so speaking of that, and I know we're only speaking of it because I was speaking of it, but there is significant research that shows that immersion reading, which means like reading the book while you're listening to it, increases reading comprehension. And that's great for our struggling readers. And for years, we would just sit down a kiddo with like a book on tape and the book in front of them and just have them read. Like that was back in the day, y'all, it was a book on tape. But of course there are challenges to that because there's always the frustration factor, right? So you sit the kiddo down, you find the place in the book, you find the place on the tape, you get them set up, with their big old can headphones, and you sit them in the reading corner, and they're sitting there reading, and they're turning pages, and then the kid over there yells something, and they look up, and they don't hit pause, and then the tape keeps going, and the book doesn't keep going, and then they've lost their place, and it is an absolute calamity. That's also an option, of course, with reading on a Kindle with Audible narration. You can find your place in the Kindle. You can find your place in Audible. And WhisperSync helps with that. WhisperSync is the Amazon's technology where you can, if you have the Kindle version and the Audible version of a book, you can listen to it. And then like when you cut off your Audible, the Kindle version will pick up right where the Audible left off, and vice versa. If you stop reading, you close your Kindle, and then the Audible will pick up where the Kindle version left off. Y'all, it is slick as snot. But if you're a struggling reader and you're trying to like find on the page exactly where it was that like exactly where it is that the book is reading to you, I can see where that could get to be very, very frustrating. which is where the Kindle Fire comes in. So let's talk about how we can use the Kindle Fire with now in this case, this is a book that I bought. I bought the Kindle version of the book and I bought the Audible version. So I own both, which isn't cheap, but like that's the option. And I don't know that I've ever tried this with a book that I either checked out of like Libby or Kindle Unlimited, but these, like this is Fourth Wing and I own both of these. So with all of that being said, let's do it. So I go to the page that I'm reading and I'm trying to get where y'all can actually see what I'm doing. So I am on page, whatever page in my book. And when I tap it down here at the bottom, I get this. And so I have the book and I don't think I had to download the Kindle. No, so I downloaded the Kindle version into like the Kindle on my Fire, but it knows that I have the Audible. So when I touch it, it asks if I want to listen to it. And so if I hit play, I don't know if y'all can hear that. But do you see the highlighting? It's highlighting the pages as it reads it. And y'all, I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit nervous because this is 100% copyrighted material. And one, I don't want to steal somebody else's intellectual material. And two, I don't want to catch a copyright strike. So I'm going to stop it here. And let me say that if you didn't hear it, then I may have caught a strike and YouTube just deleted the audio, but know that as you were seeing the highlighting, it was reading the words. And you can change the speed. So if you have readers with like faster processing speed, you can speed it up to sort of get the reading to the speed of the reader's little brain to keep them engaged. Because y'all know that's half the challenge half the time is their little brains are going so fast, but they can't read as fast as they're thinking, but they can listen that fast. So if you can get the audio to the point where they will stay engaged and get their eyes to track, they're going to pick up some of it. So I'm not trying to tell y'all how to teach. That's just another tool that you can use. I thought at some point, I believe that, I know I just said 9 things. How many disclaimers can you put in one sentence? I believe that you can do that with an iPad as well. I've not tried that, but y'all let us know in the comments if that works. If you can do the immersion reading with an iPad where it like lights up the words as you go along. I know that some things have changed, like you used to be able to do talk to text on a Kindle. You can't do that anymore. I think that's like I don't know what they're called, but like the voice actors union people, I think they had an issue with that because that was like stomping on their toes. So you can't do that anymore, but you absolutely can do Audible narration to read along with the book on the Kindle Fire. Y'all, let's talk Audible for a second. I love Audible. There are some options with Audible. We've never really talked about Audible on this channel. Couple things to know about Audible. You can get a subscription, which means you get a certain number of credits each month, depending on which level of subscription you have. And then with that, like you get some other stuff, but be aware, like my subscription, I think I pay $14.99 per credit. So I try to be aware when I go to like buy, I don't know why I'm air quoting, when I go to buy an Audible book, if the book is like $9.99, like the Audible book is $9.99 to buy it, I don't use a $14.99 credit to buy that book. So I know y'all, that's probably Captain Obvious, but I don't know that people always think about that because you're like, oh, I have a credit, I'll just get a book. Well, if the credit costs you more than just buying the book does, y'all buy the book and save the credit. And then, so there's that. And I know this to be a fact. As of today, February 6th, 2024, if you own the e-version of a book, like if you've bought the book for Kindle and then you go to buy the Audible version, generally you'll get a discount. Well, as of today, they still do this, that if you have Kindle Unlimited and you've checked out the book on Kindle Unlimited, you get a discount when you buy the Audible version. So they look at having the book on your Kindle Unlimited shelf like you bought the book. And I don't know if that's also true for the Kindle Kids thing, which we need to talk about that too. So, or Amazon, I think it's called Amazon Kids. Amazon has this kids subscription thing, which is it, y'all, I really don't know a whole lot about it. I think there's Amazon Kids and then Amazon Kids Plus. I really don't know. And it's like either $4.99 or $7.99. And I know that there are books that you can get, kids books that you can get. I don't know if that, and I assume that's like Kindle Unlimited, but for kids. So I don't know if when you get a book through that, if that also like gets you the Audible discount, but it's worth looking into. So Kindle, is it Amazon? I think it's Amazon Kids. I'm going to call it Amazon Kids. So Amazon Kids gives you a bunch of parental controls, right? So that you can hand your kiddo a device and know at least to some degree that it's like protected, right? That they're not going sketchy places. We are not going to dive back in here because I've been talking for an hour and we got to get off here. But there's also a passcode and can y'all see this furry felon? He's ready to go. But there's also passcode protection that you can put on your Kindle. So if you don't want a kiddo to necessarily pick it up and start reading willy-nilly just at their discretion, you can do that as well. So there are multiple ways that you can control access on a Kindle. And y'all, I think that's it. I know that I have missed some because there are so many great ideas for using Kindles and other electronic devices to help resistant readers become more comfortable reading. Y'all, let us know in the comments. What are your favorite ways to use electronic devices with your readers, and which ones did I forget? Y'all, thank you so much for hanging out with us. If you made it this far, we are most definitely friends. So go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you can keep up with the shenanigans. I upload food and fitness videos at the beginning of every week with some book videos sprinkled in between. See you on the next one.